Do you remember the restaurants that shaped our cities and our childhoods? The ones that seem to be everywhere, yet are nowhere to be found today. From bustling diners to cozy cafes, they served more than food. They served memories, community, and comfort. Each plate, each corner booth, carried a story of local flavor and shared moments we can't quite recreate. Let's take a nostalgic journey through 21 iconic Canadian restaurants we wish were still around. Cherished Bakery, Toronto. Walking past the old streets of mid-century Toronto, one might have caught a whiff of something unmistakably sweet and comforting. Warm, buttery pastries mingling with the earthy scent of freshly baked rye. That was Cherished Bakery, a true gem of its era, nestled unassumingly among brick storefronts, yet famous enough that people would make a deliberate detour just for a taste of its legendary butter tarts. Founded in the 1950s by a German-Canadian family who believed that every loaf of bread should carry a little piece of home, Cherished quickly became more than a bakery. It was a neighborhood gathering spot, a place where the ordinary act of buying bread became a small ritual of comfort and community. The bakery's charm lay in its simplicity. Ingredients were humble, sourced locally whenever possible, and the recipes carried the kind of frugality and ingenuity born from both necessity and tradition. Butter, flour, sugar, eggs, nothing extravagant, yet each element was handled with care, creating pastries that felt indulgent without ever feeling overdone. Rye loaves emerged from the ovens daily, golden brown with a perfectly crackled crust, while cinnamon buns twisted delicately, their sticky sweetness hinting at both labor and love. And then there were the butter tarts. Oh, the butter tarts. Each one a miniature treasure. The filling soft and syrupy, the pastry crisp and buttery. A texture that seemed to strike a perfect balance between chew and crumble. Families would pick up dozens at a time, some destined for Sunday brunch, others for late-night sneaky snacks. What made Cherished memorable wasn't just the food, however. It was the way the bakery captured a feeling of belonging. The counter staff knew your name. The regulars shared small talk about the weather, sports, or neighborhood gossip, and the occasional child would press a nose against the glass display, eyes wide with longing. There was a rhythm to the place, a gentle hum of daily life, punctuated by the occasional ding of the oven timer. It represented a slice of normalcy and warmth in a bustling, growing city. By the 1980s, however, tastes were shifting. Convenience stores and mass-produced goods began to encroach on the territory once dominated by small artisanal establishments. The allure of something freshly handmade, rooted in tradition, started to feel nostalgic rather than modern. Cherished, like so many cherished institutions, eventually closed its doors, leaving only memories, faded photos, and a few handwritten recipes tucked away in old family cookbooks. Yet its legacy endures. Those who grew up savoring its rye bread or sticky buns carry the taste in memory, and for many, recreating those recipes at home becomes an act of homage. In today's world of Instagram perfect desserts and instant coffee chains, the humble magic of Cherished Bakery reminds us that culinary artistry doesn't always need to be flashy. Sometimes it's in the daily rituals, the warmth of the oven, and the unassuming joy of a perfectly baked tart. Cherished was more than a bakery. It was a reminder of community, patience, and the quiet satisfaction of simple, honest food. Even decades later, thinking about it can make you crave that familiar scent, that tender pastry, and that fleeting, irreplaceable moment of homemade delight. The Hoito, Thunder Bay. Nestled in the heart of Thunder Bay, the Hoito was far more than a restaurant. It was a cultural landmark, a living testament to the city's Finnish heritage, and a place where pancakes became a symbol of community. Established in 1918 by Finnish immigrants, This humble eatery opened its doors during a time when the city was still defining itself, growing from a rugged port town into a hub of northern Ontario life. The name Hoito, meaning care in Finnish, perfectly captured its essence, a space where visitors were nourished not only with food, but with warmth, familiarity, and a touch of old-world hospitality. The menu was deceptively simple, reflecting both frugality and ingenuity. The star of the show, of course, was the pancake. Thin, delicate, and golden, served in generous stacks with butter and syrup, or sometimes accompanied by lingonberry jam, a nod to Finnish tradition. Ingredients were modest: flour, eggs, milk, a little sugar, and a lot of love. Yet the result was extraordinary, the kind of food that felt like an embrace after a long day. Beyond pancakes, the Hoito offered hearty soups, fresh bread, and comfort dishes that catered to workers, families, and travelers alike. Each recipe carried the kind of resourcefulness born from immigrant resilience: simple, shelf-stable, locally sourced ingredients, transformed into something reliably satisfying. What set the Hoito apart wasn't just the food, it was the experience. Step inside, and the smell of sizzling pancakes mingled with the faint aroma of fresh coffee, a scent so welcoming it almost felt like home. The interior was unpretentious, long communal tables fostering conversation among strangers who quickly became acquaintances over a shared meal. There was a sense of egalitarianism. Everyone, from lumberjacks to office clerks, was treated with the same care. Generations of families returned week after week, the restaurant quietly stitching itself into the social fabric of Thunder Bay. Over the decades, the Hoito weathered change gracefully. It resisted the pressures of modernization, remaining steadfastly old-fashioned in a world increasingly enamored with fast food and flashy dining experiences. Its decline, when it finally came, wasn't due to a lack of love, but rather the inevitable tides of time. Shifting demographics, economic pressures, and the modernization of downtown areas. Yet even after its closure, the spirit of the Hoito lives on in stories, photographs, and the few surviving recipes that continue to inspire home cooks. Reflecting on the Hoito today, it becomes clear that it represented more than Finnish pancakes. It embodied a philosophy of care, simplicity, and community. In an era of meal kits, viral food trends, and coffee chains on every corner, remembering the Hoito reminds us of the enduring power of a simple, lovingly prepared meal. It is a gentle nudge to value places where food is not just nourishment, but a shared experience, a cornerstone of culture, and a warm, edible memory that lingers long after the plates have been cleared. Coney Island hot dogs, Montreal. There was a time when a trip to downtown Montreal wouldn't be complete without a stop at Coney Island hot dogs. Established in the 1960s, this unassuming diner became legendary, not because it was fancy, far from it, but because it perfected something deceptively simple: the hot dog. Amid the hum of neon signs, bustling streets, and the occasional streetcar bell, the aroma of sizzling franks and toasted buns drew people in like a magnetic pulse, promising a quick bite that was comforting, indulgent, and undeniably Canadian. Coney Island's menu was short but iconic. The star attraction, naturally, was the hot dog, served steamed or grilled, with toppings ranging from classic mustard and onions to the now famous chili dogs that seemed to ooze nostalgia with every bite. The ingredients were modest: sausages, fresh buns, onions, ketchup, mustard, but the magic was in the execution. Perfectly cooked sausages with a snap, buns that were soft but sturdy enough to hold a generous load of toppings, and a balance of flavors that somehow made every dog feel like a treat. Fries were crisp, salted just right, and the milkshakes were thick enough to earn their own dedicated following. Every bite was comfort food elevated to ritual, a small pleasure in the midst of busy city life. But Coney Island wasn't just about food. It was a social hub, a place where Montrealers of all stripes intersected. Students crammed into booths after late-night classes, families on weekend outings, and workers grabbing a quick lunch all shared the same communal love for the diner's offerings. The diner-style seating encouraged conversation. The small counter allowed for friendly banter with the servers, and the hum of the jukebox added a soundtrack to countless personal memories. In essence, it was a place where the city felt a little smaller, a little warmer, and infinitely more connected. By the 1990s, however, the landscape of fast food was changing. Chain restaurants and multinational brands started dominating city corners, offering convenience at the expense of character. Coney Island, with all its charm and history, eventually closed its doors, leaving behind a trail of loyal patrons and fond memories. Yet its influence lingered. The art of the perfect hot dog, the importance of community dining, and the notion that even the simplest foods could hold cultural significance. Today, thinking of Coney Island hot dogs evokes more than just taste. It conjures a particular slice of Montreal life, a reminder that some of the city's most treasured experiences were never about haute cuisine, but about comfort, familiarity, and shared joy. In a modern world of meal apps, fast food drive-thrus, and viral foodie trends, remembering Coney Island is an invitation to slow down, savor the simple pleasures, and recognize the enduring magic of a hot dog done just right. La Palette, Montreal. Tucked into one of Montreal's charming old neighborhoods, La Palette was more than a restaurant. It was a portal to a European-style dining experience that felt both intimate and timeless. Opening in the 1960s, La Palette brought a slice of French bistro culture to the city's bustling streets, appealing to artists, students, and locals seeking something beyond the standard diner fare. The moment you stepped through its doors, you were greeted by the rich scent of butter, wine, and simmering sauces, a sensory invitation that promised comfort, sophistication, and a gentle escape from the everyday. The menu was a careful balance of simplicity and elegance. Classic French dishes like crepes, quiches, and escargot shared space with hearty meat stews and freshly baked bread. Ingredients were straightforward, often sourced locally, yet the magic was in the care and precision with which they were handled. Butter and cream were never skimped on, herbs were fresh, and each dish was plated in a way that made it feel like a small celebration. Crepes were thin and pliant, drizzled with chocolate or filled with ham and cheese, while hearty stews carried the kind of warmth that spoke of both tradition and patience. La Palette's offerings were accessible yet luxurious in their flavor and execution, a small indulgence that felt entirely earned. Yet, La Palette's true charm lay in the atmosphere it created. The tables were arranged closely enough to foster conversation, yet with enough privacy to make each patron feel attended to. Waiters moved with quiet efficiency, engaging with a subtle wit and a knowing smile. It wasn't a place to rush. It was a place to linger, savor, and watch the world pass by outside the windows. Artists sketched in corners, students debated passionately over coffee, and families returned season after season, each visit layering another memory onto the restaurant's history. La Palette wasn't just a meal. It was a living, breathing part of Montreal's cultural fabric. Over time, changing tastes, rising rents, and the proliferation of new dining options made it difficult for establishments like La Palette to survive. By the late 1990s, the bistro's doors closed, leaving behind only memories, faded menus, and stories of the meals that had delighted generations. But the influence of La Palette endures in the city's continued love for European-inspired cafes, the reverence for careful preparation, and the way Montrealers value atmosphere as much as food. Remembering La Palette today is a gentle lesson in culinary patience and cultural appreciation. In a world obsessed with speed, flashy trends, and Instagram-ready plates, La Palette reminds us that food is also about ritual, community, and the joy of savoring something made with care. It stands as a testament to a time when dining out was an experience to be cherished, and even a simple crepe could carry the weight of memory, connection, and a little bit of magic. Old Spaghetti Factory, Vancouver. In the 1970s, Vancouver saw the arrival of a restaurant that would redefine casual Italian dining for families and food lovers alike. The Old Spaghetti Factory. Unlike the flashy, upscale Italian restaurants that dotted city centers, this establishment offered something refreshingly approachable. A place where the entire family could gather, enjoy hearty portions, and feel instantly at home. Walking through its doors was like stepping into a whimsical blend of nostalgia and comfort. Vintage lamps hung from the ceiling, brass fixtures gleamed warmly, and antique trolley cars, yes, actual trolley cars, served as cozy booths for diners. It was kitschy, charming, and utterly inviting. The menu, though seemingly simple, was deceptively satisfying. Pasta was the heart of the experience, and the recipes were designed to be both comforting and economical. Spaghetti with rich tomato sauce, creamy fettuccine, and classic lasagna made from accessible ingredients like flour, eggs, and tomatoes were staples, while the garlic bread and crisp salads rounded out the meals. The dishes were hearty without being pretentious, filling without being complicated, a philosophy that made the restaurant a favorite among busy families, students, and anyone looking for a reliable, flavorful meal. And of course, the bread and butter served at the table, fresh and warm, became a ritual in itself, setting the tone for a dining experience that was as much about warmth and community as it was about taste. What truly set the Old Spaghetti Factory apart, however, was the atmosphere. The trolley car booths created a sense of adventure and novelty, turning a simple dinner into an event. Families gathered, children marveled at the vintage decor, and servers moved through the restaurant with practiced efficiency, blending professionalism with a personal touch. Conversations flowed, laughter echoed, and the restaurant became a living snapshot of Vancouver life, a place where celebrations, first dates, and casual weeknight dinners all found a home. Over the decades, the Old Spaghetti Factory became more than a restaurant. It was a cultural touchstone. It reflected a time when dining out didn't need to be glamorous to be memorable, when design and charm could elevate a simple plate of spaghetti into a cherished experience. However, as tastes shifted and global chains grew more dominant, some locations eventually closed, leaving behind fond memories and a nostalgia for a dining experience that was simultaneously kitschy, comforting, and entirely human. Today, thinking of the Old Spaghetti Factory is like recalling a simpler era of eating out. In a world dominated by fast food apps, curated foodie trends, and minimalistic modern interiors, it reminds us that meals were once celebrations of community, creativity, and comfort. It teaches that a well-made bowl of spaghetti, served with care and a side of nostalgia, can leave a lasting mark, not just on the palate, but on the heart. Hasty Market Cafe, Toronto. In the bustling streets of mid-20th century Toronto, Hasty Market Cafe was a modest yet beloved refuge for anyone craving a no-nonsense meal. Tucked between brick storefronts and busy avenues, it wasn't a place that made headlines for opulent decor or celebrity chefs. Instead, its charm lay in its reliability, warmth, and the comforting simplicity of its offerings. The cafe embodied the spirit of urban life in a growing city. Quick, practical, and deeply rooted in the daily rhythms of its patrons. The menu was straightforward but satisfying. Classic diner fare. Hearty sandwiches, thick-cut fries, eggs any style, and coffee that tasted strong enough to keep city workers awake for an entire shift dominated the offerings. Ingredients were humble and budget-friendly. Fresh bread from local bakeries, eggs, basic cuts of meat, and vegetables sourced from nearby markets. Yet, within that simplicity, Hasty Market Cafe had a knack for elevating ordinary dishes. A grilled cheese could be golden and crispy, with cheese that stretched perfectly across each bite. The daily specials often reflected creativity born from necessity, using whatever was on hand to create something unexpectedly delicious. What set Hasty Market apart was its atmosphere. It was a cafe for everyone. Students with backpacks, office workers grabbing a quick lunch, families stopping in on the weekend. The counter buzzed with conversation, the coffee percolated steadily, and servers moved with the practiced ease of a place that had seen countless mornings, noons, and late nights. There was a rhythm to it, a sense of continuity that made regulars feel at home and newcomers feel welcomed almost immediately. It was the kind of place where your order was remembered, where small talk with the cashier felt genuine, and where time seemed to slow down just enough to enjoy a simple meal. Hasty Market Cafe also reflected the social and economic conditions of its era. Its reliance on affordable, locally sourced ingredients mirrored a time when frugality and practicality were essential, and when community-oriented spaces were central to urban life. The cafe became a microcosm of the city itself, a place where different walks of life intersected over shared meals, laughter, and conversation. Eventually, as Toronto modernized and fast food chains proliferated, Hasty Market Cafe, like many small neighborhood eateries, closed its doors. Yet its memory endures. It represents an era when dining out was personal, unpretentious, and deeply tied to the rhythms of daily life. Remembering Hasty Market today evokes more than just flavor. It evokes the sense of community, the joy of simple, well-prepared food, and the comforting notion that some of the best meals are the ones shared quietly in familiar spaces. In a city constantly chasing the new, Hasty Market Cafe reminds us that charm and heart often reside in the ordinary. Marlborough Hotel Restaurant, Calgary. In the heart of Calgary during the mid-20th century, the Marlborough Hotel Restaurant stood as a beacon of warmth, community, and hearty dining. Unlike flashy or trendy establishments, it offered something far more enduring, a place where families, travelers, and locals alike could gather over meals that were as generous as they were comforting. Located within the historic Marlborough Hotel, the restaurant was both a destination and a refuge, a spot where the bustle of the city outside gave way to the comforting hum of conversation, clinking silverware, and the gentle aroma of home-style cooking. The menu reflected the practical elegance of its era. Steaks, roasts, and classic Canadian comfort dishes dominated, prepared using simple, reliable ingredients. Cuts of beef sourced locally, fresh vegetables, potatoes of every variety, and basic pantry staples that could stretch a hearty meal to feed more than just a few mouths. Yet, simplicity did not mean mediocrity. Each dish was thoughtfully prepared, from the golden brown roast beef with its savory gravy to the creamy mashed potatoes that melted in the mouth. Even small touches, a sprinkle of fresh herbs, a carefully made gravy, added layers of flavor that made the food memorable. It was the kind of cooking that didn't seek to impress with extravagance, but instead left an impression through consistency, care, and flavor. The Marlborough Hotel Restaurant was more than its menu. It was a social hub. Businessmen discussed deals over lunch. Families celebrated birthdays in cozy booths. And travelers found a reliable meal and a moment of respite after long journeys. The staff treated every patron with quiet attentiveness, blending professionalism with a personal touch that made regulars feel at home. The atmosphere was relaxed yet lively, balancing the elegance expected of a hotel restaurant with the approachable comfort that invited anyone through its doors. As Calgary evolved, so too did dining trends. By the late 20th century, many family-style hotel restaurants struggled to compete with fast food chains, casual dining franchises, and the rise of international cuisines. The Marlborough Hotel restaurant eventually closed, leaving behind only memories, photographs, and the stories of meals that had marked both everyday routines and special occasions. Yet its legacy endures in the idea that dining can be simultaneously practical, satisfying, and social, a place where food nourishes not just the body, but the community. Today, thinking of the Marlborough Hotel restaurant is a reminder of a bygone era when meals were measured in warmth, portion, and connection. In a world increasingly dominated by convenience and fleeting food trends, it evokes nostalgia for a time when dining out was an experience anchored in care, shared laughter, and the simple joy of a well-prepared steak or roast. The Marlborough taught that good food is timeless, and sometimes the heart of a city is best tasted one comforting plate at a time. Bert's Ice Cream Parlor, Winnipeg. In the crisp streets of mid-century Winnipeg, few places could conjure as much joy as Bert's Ice Cream Parlor. From the moment you stepped inside, the scent of rich vanilla, sweet waffle cones, and freshly made chocolate sauces wrapped around you like a warm hug. Established in the 1950s, Bert's became more than an ice cream shop. It was a cornerstone of the community, a gathering place for families, teenagers, and anyone in need of a little sweetness in their day. Its neon-lit sign promised indulgence, nostalgia, and a little bit of magic in each scoop. The menu was delightfully simple, yet perfectly executed. Classic flavors, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, and the occasional seasonal special, were always available, creamy and churned to just the right consistency. Banana splits dripped with rich sauces. Sundaes came piled high with whipped cream and a cherry on top, and cones were rolled with care, crisp and golden. Every item, while straightforward in concept, was elevated by attention to detail. The perfect drizzle of fudge, the subtle crunch of nuts, or the playful swirl that crowned each sundae. Ingredients were modest, sourced locally when possible, yet the results felt indulgent and celebratory. Beyond the ice cream itself, Bert's charm came from its atmosphere. Families lingered over their treats, couples shared late-night sundaes, and kids pressed their noses against the glass counter, wide-eyed at the colorful array of possibilities. The parlor's interior was bright, cheerful, and buzzing with conversation, a stark contrast to the long winters outside. The staff knew regulars by name, offered friendly smiles, and had a knack for making each visit feel like a small event, no matter how routine. It was the kind of place where memories were made, from birthday celebrations to first crushes, all under the hum of neon lights and the clinking of spoons against glass bowls. As Winnipeg modernized, however, small family-run parlors like Bert's faced increasing challenges. Competition from larger ice cream chains, changing tastes, and urban development gradually edged it out. When it finally closed its doors, the city mourned more than just a sweet shop. It lost a communal anchor, a place that had offered comfort, whimsy, and tradition in equal measure. Today, remembering Bert's Ice Cream Parlor is a taste of nostalgia itself. It reminds us that food, especially a simple pleasure like ice cream, carries emotional weight, binds communities, and marks the rhythm of everyday life. In an age of artisanal gelato and Instagrammable desserts, Bert's endures in memory as a place where indulgence was uncomplicated, connection was effortless, and joy was always served by the scoop. Sammy's Fish and Chips, Halifax. On the salty, windswept streets of Halifax, Sammy's Fish and Chips was more than a meal, it was a ritual. Established in the 1960s, this humble eatery captured the maritime essence of the city, offering locals and travelers alike a taste of the Atlantic in the form of perfectly fried fish and golden, crisp fries. The moment you approached Sammy's, the aroma of sizzling cod mingled with the briny sea air, promising a simple yet unforgettable culinary experience that was as much about community as it was about food. The menu was deceptively straightforward: flaky, fresh fish coated in a light, crunchy batter and fried to golden perfection, accompanied by thick-cut fries sprinkled generously with salt. Ingredients were modest, sourced as locally as possible, and yet every bite was infused with care and precision. A side of tartar sauce, perhaps a dash of malt vinegar, and a slice of lemon elevated the dish, but it was the balance of texture and flavor in the fish itself that made Sammy's iconic. Even small details, the perfectly fried exterior, the tender, steaming fish inside, spoke to the skill and pride of the cooks, transforming humble ingredients into something memorable. Yet Sammy's was never just about the food. The restaurant's interior was modest, lined with simple wooden tables and checkered floors, but it thrived on the energy of its patrons. Fishermen in work boots, students seeking a late-night bite, and families stopping in for weekend treats all shared the same tables and tableside stories. Conversations flowed freely, laughter mingled with the clatter of plates, and the experience of eating at Sammy's became as much a social event as a meal. Longtime customers remembered that their orders were often ready before they even had a chance to sit, a testament to the rhythm and familiarity that defined the place. Over time, the pressures of modernization, rising rents, and the growth of fast food chains challenged establishments like Sammy's. Its closure marked the end of an era in Halifax's culinary landscape, leaving behind memories of evenings spent warming up with fried fish after a walk along the waterfront or sharing fries with friends while watching the harbor lights flicker. Yet, even in its absence, Sammy's continues to inspire. The focus on freshness, the celebration of local ingredients, and the sense of connection fostered by a simple shared meal endure in the city's collective memory. Thinking of Sammy's Fish and Chips today is to remember a time when dining was tactile, communal, and comforting. In an age of convenience and delivery apps, it reminds us that the best meals are often the ones crafted with care, enjoyed slowly, and shared with those around us. A timeless testament to Halifax's culinary soul. The Blue Bonnet, Edmonton. In the heart of mid-century Edmonton, the Blue Bonnet was a cozy oasis of comfort and community. Opening its doors in the 1950s, this unassuming diner quickly became a favorite among locals who craved hearty meals, friendly service, and the kind of warmth that made every visit feel like coming home. From the moment you stepped inside, the scent of sizzling bacon, fresh coffee, and buttered toast wrapped around you like a familiar blanket, signaling that this was a place where life's small pleasures were celebrated daily. The menu was straightforward but satisfying, reflecting both practicality and care. Breakfast reigned supreme. Stacks of pancakes drizzled with syrup, eggs cooked to order, golden hash browns, and freshly baked toast. Ingredients were humble: eggs, flour, milk, and local produce. But the execution elevated the dishes. Pancakes were fluffy and tender, toast perfectly crisp, and coffee served piping hot, strong enough to kickstart even the groggiest of mornings. Lunch brought comfort classics. Sandwiches layered with fresh meats and cheeses, hearty soups, and meat and potato plates designed to satisfy both appetite and wallet. Each plate carried a quiet attention to detail, a promise that simple ingredients, treated with care, could nourish both body and spirit. Yet the Blue Bonnet was about more than just food. It was a community hub. The diner's long counters and cozy booths encouraged conversation and connection. Neighbors met over morning coffee, students huddled over lunch, and families celebrated birthdays in the warm, unpretentious setting. The staff knew their regulars by name, remembered their preferred coffee orders, and greeted newcomers with the same genuine hospitality, creating a sense of belonging that extended far beyond the plate. In a city growing quickly, the Blue Bonnet offered continuity, a touchstone of everyday comfort. As decades passed, the diner faced the inevitable pressures of modernization. Fast food chains and urban development began to dominate Edmonton's culinary landscape, making it increasingly difficult for small, family-style establishments to survive. When the Blue Bonnet eventually closed, it left behind a community yearning for the simple pleasures it had once provided. The smell of breakfast wafting through the air, the warmth of shared conversation, and the reliable satisfaction of a well-prepared meal. Remembering the Blue Bonnet today is an exercise in nostalgia and reflection. In a world of flashy brunch spots, specialty coffees, and curated Instagram plates, it reminds us that some of the most meaningful dining experiences come from the simple, consistent pleasures. A stack of pancakes, a steaming cup of coffee, and the comforting knowledge that you are among friends. The Blue Bonnet may be gone, but its legacy lingers in every diner that still prioritizes warmth, community, and the enduring magic of comfort food. Pioneer Grill, Saskatoon. In the heart of Saskatoon during the 1960s, Pioneer Grill earned its reputation as a humble yet indispensable gathering spot for locals seeking hearty, dependable meals. Tucked away on a busy street, it wasn't a place that sought attention through fancy decor or extravagant menus. Instead, its charm lay in its practicality, warmth, and a quiet understanding of what Midwestern diners wanted. Food that was generous, flavorful, and made with care. From the moment patrons stepped inside, the aroma of sizzling meats, fresh bread, and simmering sauces signaled that this was a place where nourishment went hand in hand with community. The menu reflected the grit and resilience of the prairie lifestyle. Hearty breakfasts, meat and potato lunches, and comfort dinners dominated, all prepared with straightforward ingredients: eggs, locally sourced meats, potatoes, and seasonal vegetables. The magic was not in extravagance, but in execution. Roast beef came tender and savory, hash browns were crisp without being greasy, and sandwiches were stacked generously, offering both sustenance and satisfaction. Even the daily specials demonstrated ingenuity, using what was available to create something both affordable and memorable. It was the kind of cooking born from frugality, practicality, and the desire to feed both body and spirit. But Pioneer Grill's true legacy was its role as a social hub. Farmers, tradesmen, students, and families shared the same tables, exchanging stories over steaming plates and strong coffee. The long, unadorned counters encouraged conversation, while the friendly staff knew regulars by name and often remembered their favorite orders. The rhythm of the cafe reflected the city itself, steady, hardworking, and welcoming. It was a place where time slowed just enough to enjoy a meal and share a laugh, a rarity in a world that often demanded haste. Over the years, changes in dining culture and urban development challenged small establishments like Pioneer Grill. Fast food chains, convenience-driven trends, and the rise of modern cafes gradually displaced many of these cherished local spots. Yet even after its closure, the memories lingered of breakfasts shared with neighbors, lunch breaks that stretched into conversation, and the comforting knowledge that a good meal was never far away. Today, thinking of Pioneer Grill evokes more than taste. It evokes a sense of place, a snapshot of Saskatoon's mid-century life, and the enduring value of simple, thoughtfully prepared food. In a world increasingly dominated by speed and novelty, Pioneer Grill reminds us that community, warmth, and the satisfaction of a well-executed, humble meal can leave a mark that lasts long after the tables are cleared. It stands as a testament to the quiet power of comfort food and the spaces that nurture both body and soul. Café du Monde, Montreal. Amid the bustling streets of Montreal in the 1960s, Café du Monde carved out its niche as a quaint European-style cafe that transported patrons straight to Paris without ever leaving Canada. Its charm lay not in grandeur, but in intimacy. Small tables lined the walls. The aroma of freshly baked pastries and robust coffee filled the air, and the soft hum of conversation created an ambiance that was both lively and comforting. For locals and visitors alike, Café du Monde offered a respite from the city's hustle, a place to slow down, savor, and linger over simple pleasures. The menu was elegantly minimal, yet indulgent, anchored by freshly baked pastries, delicate croissants, rich tarts, and expertly poured coffee. Ingredients were humble: flour, butter, eggs, sugar, but handled with a care that transformed ordinary staples into memorable experiences. Almond croissants flaked delicately with each bite. Tarts balanced sweetness and tang perfectly, and the coffee, always freshly brewed, offered both warmth and a gentle caffeine kick. Each dish embodied the European approach to cafe culture. Food that was simple, thoughtfully prepared, and meant to be savored slowly, often with conversation and companionship as essential accompaniments. Beyond the food, Café du Monde became a hub for creativity and connection. Artists sketched quietly in corners, students huddled over textbooks while sipping espresso, and friends met for leisurely breakfasts that often turned into mid-morning conversations. The cafe's atmosphere fostered a sense of community, where strangers could feel at home and regulars were greeted like old friends. The staff, attentive yet unobtrusive, added to the feeling that every visit was a small ritual, a brief escape into a world of flavor and calm. As Montreal evolved, the pressures of modern dining, fast-paced restaurants, chain cafes, and shifting urban priorities made sustaining such intimate establishments challenging. Yet even after its closure, Café du Monde's legacy endured. It left behind memories of buttery pastries, rich coffee, and the quiet joy of a slow, thoughtful meal. Its influence can still be felt in Montreal's love for European-style cafes and the continued appreciation for spaces where atmosphere and craft intersect. Remembering Café du Monde today is to recall more than taste. It's to recall a mood, a way of dining, and a connection to tradition. In a world increasingly dominated by convenience and fleeting trends, the cafe stands as a reminder that some of the most profound culinary pleasures come from simplicity, patience, and shared moments over coffee and pastry. It was a place where the ordinary became special, and even decades later, thinking of it is enough to inspire the desire to slow down and savor the small delights of life. The Dutch Oven, Toronto. In the heart of Toronto's mid-century neighborhoods, the Dutch Oven was a cozy haven where comfort and tradition converged on a plate. Opening in the 1970s, it quickly became a local favorite, renowned for its hearty home-style meals and unpretentious atmosphere. Unlike trendy bistros or flashy eateries, The Dutch oven offered something far more enduring. Food that felt familiar, generous portions that satisfied the body, and an environment that welcomed everyone like family. The scent of roasting meats, simmering gravies, and freshly baked bread greeted every guest, promising warmth even on the coldest city days. The menu celebrated Canadian comfort food with a particular emphasis on practicality and flavor. Pea meal bacon sandwiches, tender pot roasts, mashed potatoes, and seasonal vegetables dominated, alongside simple yet indulgent desserts like fruit crisps and butter tarts. Ingredients were straightforward, locally sourced when possible, and handled with care, a reflection of frugality, ingenuity, and respect for tradition. The kitchen excelled at taking humble staples and transforming them into meals that were deeply satisfying. Whether it was the crisp, golden crust on a roast chicken or the savory richness of a well-made gravy, every dish carried a sense of home, of family kitchens and Sunday dinners, making each meal more than nourishment. It was an experience. Yet, the Dutch oven's charm extended beyond its food. Its interiors were warm and inviting, with wooden booths, soft lighting, and an atmosphere that encouraged lingering. Patrons ranged from office workers grabbing lunch, families celebrating milestones, to seniors returning week after week for the same comforting dishes. The staff knew regulars by name, remembered favorite orders, and greeted newcomers with a genuine smile. It was a place where conversation flowed as easily as the coffee, and where meals were a shared ritual, weaving together the social fabric of the neighborhood. Over time, changing dining trends, urban development, and the rise of chain restaurants made it challenging for small home-style eateries like the Dutch oven to survive. Its eventual closure marked the end of an era, but the memories lingered, of plates laden with hearty food, warm conversations, and the sense that someone cared enough to make a meal just right. Thinking of the Dutch oven today evokes nostalgia for a simpler time when dining out meant comfort, connection, and care. In a world increasingly focused on convenience, Instagram-ready dishes, and fleeting culinary trends, it stands as a reminder that food's deepest value often lies in its ability to nourish both body and spirit, creating lasting memories, one humble, lovingly prepared meal at a time. Caprice Restaurant, Montreal. In the vibrant streets of Montreal during the 1960s, Caprice Restaurant earned a reputation as a culinary anchor, offering patrons an experience that combined elegance with approachable charm. Unlike grand hotels or upscale fine dining, Caprice struck a balance, sophisticated enough to feel special, yet unpretentious enough to welcome regulars who simply wanted a dependable, well-prepared meal. Stepping inside, one was greeted by the warm aroma of roasting meats, simmering sauces, and freshly baked bread, a sensory invitation that promised both comfort and a touch of indulgence. The menu reflected a refined take on classic French and European-inspired dishes while keeping ingredients accessible. Beef bourguignon, roasted chicken with herb-infused gravies, fresh seafood, and seasonal vegetables featured prominently, prepared with care and attention to detail. Desserts, including delicate tarts and custards, showcased a balance of flavor and texture, while coffee and tea rounded out the experience. Ingredients were simple yet high quality, highlighting the principle that careful execution could elevate even humble staples into something memorable. Portions were generous, flavors pronounced but never overwhelming, and each dish carried the quiet confidence of tradition executed with skill. But Caprice was more than its menu. It was a social hub and a reflection of Montreal's evolving dining culture. Couples celebrated anniversaries, families enjoyed weekend lunches, and business meetings unfolded over meticulously plated meals. The staff, attentive without being intrusive, ensured that every guest felt valued, and the atmosphere, soft lighting, tasteful decor, and the low murmur of conversation encouraged both intimacy and community. Regular patrons became part of a larger rhythm, returning week after week, their familiarity with the space and staff adding an extra layer of warmth to the dining experience. Over time, as dining trends shifted and the city embraced new culinary influences, Caprice faced challenges common to many mid-century establishments: competition from emerging restaurants, changing tastes, and urban redevelopment. When it eventually closed its doors, it left a legacy of both gastronomic craftsmanship and cultural significance. Patrons remembered not just the dishes, but the experience, the feeling of being nourished, celebrated, and connected through shared meals. Remembering Caprice Restaurant today is to revisit a time when dining was measured in comfort, quality, and care. In a modern world dominated by quick service options and flashy presentations, Caprice reminds us that the true joy of eating out comes not from novelty alone, but from thoughtfully prepared food, welcoming spaces, and moments that linger long after the last bite. It stands as a testament to Montreal's culinary history, a gentle reminder that elegance and warmth can coexist on every plate. Harbour Bakery, Toronto. Nestled in one of Toronto's historic neighborhoods, Harbour Bakery was a cherished institution that blended simplicity, skill, and the unmistakable comfort of fresh-baked bread. Opening its doors in the mid-20th century, it quickly became a cornerstone of the community, drawing in families, students, and food lovers who craved honest, dependable baked goods. From the moment you entered, the rich, warm scent of yeast, butter, and sugar enveloped you. A sensory reminder that here, care and tradition were baked into every loaf, roll, and pastry. The bakery's offerings were deceptively simple, yet universally beloved. Crusty sourdough, soft rye loaves, golden baguettes, and buttery croissants lined the display, each one crafted with a meticulous attention to detail. Ingredients were straightforward: flour, water, yeast, butter, and sugar. But the skill lay in the process, in the timing, the kneading, and the patience required to transform humble staples into something extraordinary. Danish pastries and tarts offered a sweet contrast to the savory breads, their delicate layers and vibrant fillings, proving that even the most ordinary ingredients could yield remarkable results when handled with care. Harbour Bakery's menu celebrated tradition, frugality, and ingenuity, making it a culinary touchstone for the neighborhood. Yet the bakery's charm extended far beyond its menu. It was a hub of community life. Neighbors greeted one another with familiar smiles. Students lingered over morning coffee paired with a warm pastry, and families picked up loaves for Sunday brunch or holiday gatherings. The staff knew many customers by name, remembered their favorite breads, and offered a friendly word alongside every purchase. The rhythm of the bakery, early mornings, the hum of ovens, the chatter of patrons mirrored the heartbeat of the community itself, turning everyday errands into small, meaningful rituals. As the city modernized, however, small artisanal bakeries faced mounting pressures from chain stores, industrial bread production, and changing consumer habits. Harbour Bakery eventually closed its doors, leaving behind only memories, photographs, and the lingering scent of its signature loaves in the minds of those who had frequented it for decades. Its legacy, however, remains in the city's continued appreciation for fresh, handcrafted bread and the enduring nostalgia for a place where quality, warmth, and community intersected. Remembering Harbour Bakery today is to recall more than taste. It is to revisit a way of life where food was crafted with care, shared with neighbors, and savored in the simple act of breaking bread. In a world increasingly dominated by convenience and speed, the bakery stands as a reminder that true culinary magic often resides in patience, tradition, and the quiet joy of a perfectly baked loaf. Skipper's Fish and Chips, Vancouver. Along the bustling waterfront and city streets of Vancouver, Skipper's Fish and Chips was a beloved institution that captured the essence of coastal comfort food. Established in the 1960s, it became synonymous with golden, crispy fish, thick-cut fries, and the unmistakable aroma of frying batter mingling with the salty sea breeze. For locals, it wasn't just a quick meal, it was a ritual, a reliable taste of the Pacific Northwest that combined freshness, flavor, and affordability in every order. The menu was simple, focused on doing a few things exceptionally well. Cod, halibut, and occasionally salmon were lightly battered and fried to perfection, their exteriors golden and crunchy, while the fish inside remained tender and flaky. Thick fries, fried until crisp yet soft on the inside, complemented the mains, often sprinkled with just the right amount of salt. Tartar sauce, malt vinegar, and lemon wedges completed the experience, turning each bite into a satisfying balance of texture and flavor. Ingredients were modest but carefully chosen, emphasizing quality and freshness over extravagance, reflecting the culinary ethos of a place rooted in practicality and maritime heritage. Beyond the food itself, Skipper's charm came from its casual, welcoming atmosphere. Many locations were designed as takeout counters, with a few tables for those who wanted to linger, creating a communal space where students, families, and office workers intersected. The staff moved with practiced efficiency, greeting regulars by name and making newcomers feel instantly at home. There was a rhythm to the place, the steady sizzle of the fryer, the murmur of conversation, the clatter of trays, and it became a familiar soundtrack to Vancouver life. Over time, Skipper's Fish and Chips grew to become a recognizable chain, yet each location retained that sense of local connection. Despite its success, the rise of fast food competition and changing dining trends eventually led to closures and consolidations. Nevertheless, the legacy of Skipper's endures. The idea that a simple, well-executed dish can evoke memories, create community, and define a city's culinary identity. Remembering Skipper's Fish and Chips today is to recall more than flavor. It's to revisit the experience of city life, slowed just enough to enjoy a comforting meal. In an era dominated by delivery apps, global chains, and fusion cuisines, Skipper's serves as a reminder that the classics, the humble fried fish, the perfect fries, the casual counter service, hold a timeless appeal. It embodies a period in Vancouver's history where food, simplicity, and community came together in the most satisfying way imaginable. Baba Yaga's Deli, Winnipeg. In the heart of Winnipeg, Baba Yaga's Deli was a quirky, unforgettable haven for anyone craving authentic Eastern European flavors with a side of character. Established in the 1970s, it quickly became a neighborhood staple, drawing locals with its hearty offerings, whimsical decor, and the kind of warmth that made every visitor feel like a guest at a friend's table. From the moment you stepped inside, the rich aroma of smoked meats, fresh rye bread, and simmering borscht enveloped you, a sensory invitation that promised comfort, tradition, and a touch of culinary adventure. The menu was a celebration of Eastern European staples, executed with care and authenticity. Smoked sausages, cabbage rolls, pierogies, and fresh rye sandwiches formed the backbone of the offerings, often accompanied by pickled vegetables and homemade sauces. Ingredients were simple yet hearty: local meats, root vegetables, cabbage, flour, and eggs. But it was in the preparation that Baba Yaga's magic truly shone. Pierogies were boiled and then lightly pan-fried for a golden finish. Cabbage rolls were tender and rich with savory filling, and sandwiches were piled high with smoked meats and flavorful condiments. Each dish spoke of both tradition and the ingenuity required to feed families well on modest ingredients. Yet the deli's charm went far beyond the food. Its interior was a delightfully eclectic mix. Folk art, hand-painted signs, and quirky trinkets adorned the walls, creating an atmosphere that was as much about storytelling as it was about eating. Locals lingered over coffee and sandwiches. Students grabbed quick lunches, and families brought children to experience flavors that connected them to their heritage. The staff was welcoming and familiar, offering advice, sharing anecdotes, and always greeting regulars by name. Baba Yaga's wasn't just a deli. It was a community hub where food, culture, and connection intertwined. Over the decades, changes in dining trends and urban development gradually threatened the survival of small, character-filled delis like Baba Yaga's. Its closure marked the end of an era, leaving behind only memories, photographs, and the lingering taste of borscht, smoked meats, and fresh rye. Yet its influence endures in Winnipeg's culinary memory and in the city's ongoing appreciation for authentic, home-style Eastern European fare. Remembering Baba Yaga's deli today is to recall more than just flavor. It is to remember a place where tradition, creativity, and community came together on a plate. In a world increasingly dominated by convenience and uniformity, the deli serves as a reminder that the best meals are often those infused with care, heritage, and a touch of whimsy, leaving a lasting impression long after the last bite. Maple Leaf Diner, Ottawa. In mid-century Ottawa, the Maple Leaf Diner was more than a place to grab a meal. It was a gathering spot that captured the city's everyday rhythms with warmth, reliability, and a touch of nostalgia. Established in the 1960s, it quickly became a local institution, known for its hearty breakfasts, comforting lunches, and an atmosphere that welcomed everyone from office workers to families. From the moment patrons stepped inside, the smell of sizzling bacon, freshly brewed coffee, and warm baked goods signaled that here, food was a daily pleasure, not just sustenance. The menu was straightforward, grounded in the classics that Canadians had long loved. Pancakes piled high, eggs any style, golden hash browns, and bacon-dominated breakfast, while sandwiches, meatloaf, and daily specials filled out the lunch offerings. Ingredients were simple: eggs, flour, local meats, potatoes, and seasonal vegetables, but executed with a care that transformed everyday staples into memorable meals. Even the seemingly ordinary dishes, like a grilled cheese or a plate of fries, carried a sense of thoughtfulness in preparation. Perfectly toasted bread, crisp yet tender potatoes, and sauces made in-house when possible. It was comfort food elevated by attention to detail and a respect for tradition. Yet the Maple Leaf Diner's true magic lay in its atmosphere. Wooden booths, checkered floors, and a bustling counter created a sense of community where conversation flowed as freely as coffee. Staff remembered regulars by name, greeted newcomers warmly, and offered small acts of familiarity that turned a simple meal into a shared ritual. It was a place where office colleagues could unwind over lunch, families could celebrate small milestones, and students could fuel up for long afternoons of study, all under one welcoming roof. Over time, however, the rise of fast food chains and the shift toward convenience dining challenged the survival of small, character-filled diners like the Maple Leaf. Its eventual closure marked the end of an era, leaving behind memories of comforting meals, friendly faces, and the kind of neighborhood connection that only such establishments could provide. Yet the legacy of the diner endures in Ottawa's culinary memory, a reminder that food is as much about community and consistency as it is about flavor. Remembering the Maple Leaf Diner today is to recall more than just taste. It is to remember the feeling of a meal prepared with care, enjoyed in good company, and shared within a space that felt like home. In an age of fleeting trends and fast-paced dining, it serves as a testament to the enduring value of simple, hearty food and the joy of eating as a communal experience. The Gourmet Wagon, Calgary. In the bustling streets of Calgary during the 1970s and 1980s, the Gourmet Wagon emerged as an icon of city dining, blending convenience, creativity, and a flair for the unexpected. Unlike traditional restaurants with their fixed locations and formal atmospheres, the Gourmet Wagon was mobile, dynamic, and instantly approachable. It captured the imagination of Calgarians who craved quality food on the go, a rare proposition at a time when fast food was often synonymous with mediocrity, and diners meant standard fare. The moment you spotted its gleaming vehicle parked on a busy corner, it promised an adventure in flavor, a culinary experience that was portable yet sophisticated, practical yet indulgent. The menu at the Gourmet Wagon was surprisingly inventive for its era, a testament to the ambition and vision of its operators. It combined classic Canadian comfort food with international influences, offering everything from gourmet sandwiches and fresh salads to more indulgent options like rich quiches, creamy pasta dishes, and house-made soups. Ingredients were carefully selected for quality and versatility, with a focus on freshness that distinguished it from the standard fare of competing food trucks or fast food chains. Bread was often sourced from local bakeries, meats were tender and seasoned thoughtfully, and vegetables were crisp, vibrant, and prepared with care. The culinary philosophy behind the Gourmet Wagon was simple yet revolutionary. Take humble, accessible ingredients and elevate them through attention to detail, balance, and creativity. One of the defining characteristics of the Gourmet Wagon was its ability to transform an everyday meal into a memorable experience. The operators took pride in presentation, often arranging sandwiches with a flourish, layering flavors with precision, and ensuring that even the simplest dishes felt deliberate and satisfying. A roast beef sandwich could be adorned with fresh greens, tangy condiments, and just the right touch of seasoning, while a quiche might feature a delicate buttery crust paired with a rich, savory filling that made it feel like a small indulgence rather than a hurried lunch. Even casual meals were treated with respect, a philosophy that resonated with a city eager for alternatives to conventional takeout. Beyond the food itself, the Gourmet Wagon cultivated a sense of community. Its mobility allowed it to appear in different neighborhoods, business districts, and at local events, effectively bringing people together over shared meals. Office workers lined up at noon, anticipating the familiar menu. Families discovered new flavors and combinations on weekend outings. Students treated it as a reliable, convenient source of both sustenance and culinary adventure. The operators fostered friendly interactions with customers, remembering regulars' favorite orders, offering recommendations, and engaging with passers-by in a way that humanized the act of eating on the street. It was a place where convenience met connection, where mobility did not diminish intimacy, but rather enhanced it by bringing the food directly into the lives of the community. The success of the Gourmet Wagon also reflected broader cultural shifts in Calgary and across Canada during that era. The city was growing, urban life was accelerating, and people increasingly sought alternatives to traditional sit-down restaurants. Food trucks, mobile vendors, and creative street food concepts were still in their infancy. And the gourmet wagon stood out as a pioneer. It combined the practicality of on-the-go dining with a sophistication rarely associated with mobile food, anticipating a trend that would only gain momentum decades later with the rise of artisanal food trucks and gourmet street cuisine. Despite its popularity, the gourmet wagon eventually faced challenges common to small, innovative ventures: urban development, changing regulations, and the increasing dominance of fast food franchises made maintaining a mobile, quality-focused operation difficult. When it closed, it left behind a legacy not just of memorable meals, but of a new way of thinking about food accessibility, quality, and engagement with the community. Patrons remembered the carefully crafted sandwiches, the vibrant salads, the warm interactions with staff, and the delight of discovering high-quality, imaginative food served from a rolling kitchen on city streets. Reflecting on the gourmet wagon today is more than an exercise in culinary nostalgia. It is a reminder of the impact a simple yet thoughtfully executed idea can have on a city. In an age of delivery apps, meal kits, and gourmet-to-go trends, it stands as a testament to the enduring appeal of fresh, carefully prepared food, served with attention and personality wherever people gather. The gourmet wagon reminds us that the best dining experiences are not confined to walls or fine dining rooms. They can be found in unexpected places, carried on wheels, and shared in moments that feel both personal and communal. It was a pioneer in every sense: innovative, approachable, and deeply connected to the rhythms of Calgary life, leaving a lasting mark on the city's culinary history. Café Europa, Montreal. In the vibrant cosmopolitan streets of Montreal, Café Europa stood out as a hub of continental charm and culinary sophistication during the 1960s and 1970s. Unlike the bustling diners or fast food joints that populated the city, Café Europa offered a European-inspired refuge where patrons could linger over thoughtfully prepared dishes and the gentle hum of conversation. From the moment you stepped inside, the rich aromas of freshly baked breads, simmering sauces, and brewed coffee enveloped you, inviting guests into a space that felt both intimate and cosmopolitan. It was the kind of cafe that suggested leisurely mornings, unhurried afternoons, and a celebration of the simple joys of dining. The menu reflected the European sensibility of the cafe's founders, blending French, Italian, and Central European influences with a focus on fresh, high-quality ingredients. Croissants, tarts, and delicate pastries shared space with savory dishes such as quiches, pâtés, and lightly dressed salads. Ingredients were modest yet meticulously handled. Local cheeses, tender cuts of meat, seasonal vegetables, and buttery pastries, all prepared with precision and care. Even the simplest offerings, like a ham and cheese croissant or a bowl of creamy soup, were elevated by thoughtful preparation, balancing flavor and texture in a way that made every bite memorable. The cafe struck a rare balance between indulgence and accessibility, offering European flair without pretense or intimidation. Beyond the cuisine, Café Europa thrived on its atmosphere. The interior was a harmonious blend of old-world charm and contemporary comfort, with wooden tables, soft lighting, and artful decor that made each visit feel special. Students studied quietly in corners, couples shared leisurely breakfasts, and friends met for coffee and conversation, all contributing to a sense of communal warmth. Staff moved through the cafe with practiced efficiency, greeting regulars by name and making newcomers feel immediately welcome. In a city known for its dynamic mix of cultures and lifestyles, Café Europa provided a common ground where culinary excellence met conviviality. Café Europa also reflected a period in Montreal's history when the city was embracing international influences while maintaining its unique cultural identity. Its European-inspired menu introduced locals to flavors and techniques that were both sophisticated and approachable, contributing to the city's evolving food scene. The cafe became a touchstone for those seeking more than a quick meal, an experience that celebrated quality, tradition, and the joy of slowing down to savor life's little pleasures. As time passed, however, changing dining trends, urban development, and competition from new eateries made it challenging for small, specialized cafes to endure. Café Europa eventually closed, leaving behind only memories of buttery croissants, rich coffee, and the gentle clatter of cups and conversation. Yet its legacy persists in Montreal's appreciation for artisanal cafes, continental pastries, and thoughtfully prepared meals that prioritize both flavor and experience. Remembering Café Europa today is more than a nostalgic exercise. It is a reflection on the enduring power of hospitality, craft, and ambiance. In a modern world dominated by fast-paced dining and fleeting culinary trends, the cafe reminds us that some of the most meaningful meals are those prepared with care, shared slowly, and enjoyed in spaces that invite connection and reflection. Café Europa stood as a testament to the art of simple elegance, leaving a lasting impression on all who pass through its doors. Old Quebec Ice Cream Parlor, Quebec City. Nestled in the cobblestone streets of Old Quebec, the Old Quebec Ice Cream Parlor was a sweet beacon for locals and tourists alike. Opening its doors in the 1960s, it became a cherished fixture, blending the charm of a European-style cafe with the playful delight of a classic ice cream shop. From the moment you stepped inside, the scent of freshly baked waffle cones, rich chocolate, and creamy vanilla enveloped you, signaling a momentary escape into indulgence and nostalgia. Its colorful interior, filled with glass display cases, checkered floors, and whimsical signage, offered a cheerful contrast to the historic stone streets outside, inviting everyone to linger over a simple pleasure: ice cream. The menu was straightforward, but executed with a meticulous attention to quality that set the parlor apart. Scoops of vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, and seasonal flavors were creamy, rich, and served with a generous hand. Sundaes were lavishly topped with whipped cream, chocolate sauce, and a cherry, while banana splits and waffle cones brought joy in both flavor and presentation. Ingredients were basic: cream, sugar, eggs, and fruit, but the magic came from technique and care. Every cone, cup, and sundae reflected a dedication to freshness and balance, proving that even the simplest dessert could feel like an indulgent treat when made with expertise and heart. Yet the charm of the Old Quebec Ice Cream Parlor extended far beyond its flavors. It was a hub of community and connection, where families celebrated warm summer afternoons, children pressed their noses against glass counters in wide-eyed anticipation, and friends met for a leisurely treat after exploring the historic streets. Staff greeted patrons with a mix of warmth and efficiency, remembering regulars and offering a playful word to newcomers, turning each visit into a small, joyful ritual. It was a place where time seemed to slow, where the act of choosing a flavor or savoring a sundae became a shared moment of happiness. The parlor also captured the spirit of Quebec City itself, a blend of tradition, charm, and an appreciation for simple pleasures. Tourists visiting the historic district found a taste of local culture through the familiar, comforting medium of ice cream, while residents relied on it as a summer staple, a dependable delight that transcended generations. It represented both a continuity of tradition and a playful indulgence, bridging the gap between the city's rich heritage and everyday joys. As the years passed and modern dessert trends, gelato shops, and chain cafes arrived, establishments like the Old Quebec Ice Cream Parlor faced growing competition. Its eventual closure left a bittersweet memory for the city, a place that had offered not only exceptional ice cream, but also community, celebration, and the small magic of childhood wonder. Yet even in absence, its legacy lingers, reminding visitors and locals alike of the joy found in simple, well-crafted treats. Remembering the Old Quebec Ice Cream Parlor today is more than recalling flavor. It is about remembering a mood and experience, and a moment in time when the pleasures of life were served in a cone, a cup, or a sundae. In a world dominated by convenience and modern trends, it stands as a reminder that the best indulgences are often those made with care, shared with friends or family, and enjoyed slowly, savoring both taste and memory. The parlor captured the essence of community, tradition, and joy, leaving a lasting impression on Quebec City's cultural and culinary history. Thanks for joining us on this nostalgic tour of 21 iconic Canadian restaurants we wish were still around. Which one brought back the most memories for you? Share your favorite in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow food lovers so we can keep celebrating these beloved spots together.